Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Lagos Area Committee of the Nigerian Council of Registered Insurance Brokers, it is my honor and privilege to welcome all our distinguished guests, to most especially appreciate our resource persons, most of whom are already on the loop. This is the NCRIB Lagos Area Media Workshop, and of course, to some of our foreign delegates, the Nigerian Council of Registered Insurance Brokers goes by the acronym NCRIB. It is the chartered umbrella body that regulates the practice of insurance broking in Nigeria. And of course, the membership of the council is today about 500, made up of members spread across the nooks and crannies of Nigeria. And incidentally, the Lagos Area Committee is one of the 6 committees of the NCRIB responsible for the coordination of the practice of members around Lagos State. It is my honor and privilege to also inform you that this area committee has been one of the avant-gardes of the council's activities. And today, what we're doing again is bearing very eloquent testimonies to that. Permit me to say that we already have on the loop the president and chairman of the governing board of our council, Dr. Mrs. Bola Onipogi, who is the chief host. Madam President, you are welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, President. Please permit me to also say that we already have in the house the deputy president of our council, who incidentally is also one of our resource persons today. He is Barrister Rotimi Edu-MNI. You are welcome, sir. You're welcome on the loop.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Please permit me to say that we've got the very energetic and very dynamic chairman of the Lagos Area Committee, Mrs. Bukola Ifemade, already on the loop. Mrs. Ifemade, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, I must inform everyone that this year we are going to have a very good measure of international touch to the LAC event. But before I introduce him, permit me to also say that we have in the house the Executive Secretary and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Council of Registered Insurance Brokers, Mr. Fatah Adegbenro. Mr. Adegbenro, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Papa.
And of course, thank you, sir. And of course, I have the Deputy Chairman of the Lagos Area Committee, Mr. Rotimi Olukorede, there for us. Mr. Olukorede, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Like I said earlier, ladies and gentlemen, we have an international speaker all the way from Canada, a man from whom we're going to learn a lot as we cross-fertilize ideas today. Of course, is the CEO of Insurance Brokers Association of Canada, Mr. Peter Bride. Mr. Bride, you're welcome, sir.
Honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, to moderate this very important segment is no less a person than the Managing Director of YOA Insurance Brokers Limited, one of the foremost brokers in Nigeria here, Mrs. Eni Tosholari. Mrs. Sholari, you're welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, As you can see, I like to say that we have three subjects rolled into one in the course of this very great conference. We've got advocacy, we've got fintech, and we've got mental health. But the first chapter is what we're taking today, and that is advocacy. And of course, at the appropriate time, Mr. Bride will lead us into it. But right away, ladies and gentlemen, can we take the national anthem now, please? Can we take the national anthem? Thank you very much. Can Pastor Olukorede give us a word of prayer? Pastor Olukorede, please.
Thank you very much. Shall we rise up and pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this occasion, this August meeting of the Ncrib Lagos Area Committee Media Workshop 2020. We appreciate you for the gift of life. Thank you for our industry. We thank you for what you are doing and what you are about to do. Father, as we begin this conference, we ask that you be with us and you perfect everything that we're going to do. Let your glory be seen in everything, Lord. Thank you, Heavenly Father. For in Jesus' name we are praying. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to invite the chairman of the Lagos Area Committee of the NCRIB, a woman who has proven herself to be very, very resourceful, very diligent, with unselfish devotion to the growth of our council and the insurance broking profession. And of course, under our leadership, we have no fewer than 350 members, strong members. And of course, she's giving unto them very, very effective leadership. Permit me to invite Mrs. Bukola Ifemade for our welcome address. Mrs. Bukola Ifemade, please, your welcome address.
Thank you very much. My president, the chairman of our governing council, Dr. Mrs. Onigobi, our deputy president, Barrister Rotimi Edu, MNI, our vice president, Mr. Tunde Oguntade, our CEO and the executive secretary of our great council, Mr. Fatai Adegbero, all our past presidents that are joining us, all board members that are with us, all our guest speakers in the house, today and tomorrow, every member of the panel of discussants and moderators, all my predecessors, the LAC past chairman, all the executive members of Lagos Area Committee, all our wonderful sponsors, my professional colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is with pleasure and excitement that I welcome you all to the 2020 edition of the Media Workshop of Lagos Area Committee of Nigerian Council of Registered Insurance Brokers. This year's workshop is designed exactly for what it is, A workshop with 3 segments focused on 3 different areas, but all are interlinked for innovations to take insurance industry and us as brokers to the next level. And the insurance brokers being the key players in the new level of innovations within the industry. Our beloved country, Nigeria, is a great country indeed, and we as insurance brokers are able to make it greater through new ideas. As insurance brokers, we are poised to take away from this workshop fresh ideas to drive insurance penetration and to enhance service delivery to every stakeholder in the industry, especially our customers. To this end, we appreciate our guest speaker, Mr. Peter Braid, the CEO of Insurance Brokers of Canada, who graciously will be sharing the success nuggets of our counterparts in Canada, the Insurance Brokers of Canada, IBAC, and our own Deputy President, Barrister Rotimi Edu, who will also draw the parallel between IBAC's pillars as well as with our own markets. We also appreciate all our various speakers and panel members who will be taking us through the new business tool rail, the FinTech. This is not forgetting what worldwide is now known as the new normal, following the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic and the attendant effect on the families and businesses. So we'll be welcoming into our midst, one of the leading HMO, the Health Maintenance Organization, AXA HMO, and the expert psychologists who will be having great discourse on this. Our thanks also go to our moderators and the master of ceremony at this event, who will be coordinating the event and make sure we all have a great experience from this workshop. While in conformity with government directives on the new protocol pertaining to social distancing, that's where this year's workshop, even though it's being held virtually, we still have the attendant financial cost to it. Based on this, we appreciate all our sponsors who have made this event very possible. Our thanks to the leading companies who partnered with us, the YOA Insurance Brokers, AXA HMO, and System Spec Limited, and then our technical partner, Rockbridge Solutions, who are hosting this event for us today. A lot of efforts and strategy had gone into the planning and putting together this event by the executives of Lagos Area Committee, and especially the planning committee of this year's workshop under the chairmanship of our Vice Chairman, Mr. Rotimi Olukorede. So I want to encourage all of us to be very attentive. I will encourage us to take notes and ask questions while we have our guests with us. This is time for our industry to evolve with us as insurance brokers as the game changer. To take insurance into every corner of our great nation, deploying insurance solutions for the stability of families and businesses, and in doing so in the most effective and efficient manner. The program is scheduled for 2 days, and I will encourage us all to be in attendance all through, as each segment is uniquely insightful. Once again, I welcome each and everyone to today's event, and I wish us a great and rewarding time. Indeed, together we move forward. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, the chairman of the Lagos Area Committee, for that wonderful prefatory remarks. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our industry to evolve. I can pick that from the speech of the chairman. It's now my honor and privilege to invite the president and of course the #1 insurance broker in Nigeria, chairman, governing board of our council, Dr. Mrs. Bola Onigbogi, to also give a very short address as president. The president.
Thank you very much. The chairman, NCRIB Lagos Area Committee. Can you hear me, please?
We are with you,
very well.
Okay. The chairman, NCRIB Lagos Area Committee, Mrs. Bukola Ifemade, and the executives, the past president here present, the deputy president of our council, who is the paper reviewer, Barrister Rotimi Edu, MNI, the Vice President, the governing board members, the guest speaker, Mr. Peter Braid, CEO of EBAC, the array of panelists, our able moderators, and esteemed members of our great council, gentlemen of the media, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to address you as the chief host of this landmark event, which is the 2020 Media Workshop of the Lagos Area Committee of the Nigerian Council of Registered Insurance Brokers. This is basically to improve the knowledge base of its members. I must commend the leadership of the LAC, particularly under the dynamic and ever resourceful Mrs. Bukola Ifemade, for always coming up with ingenious programs that could improve the image of the industry and our council. It is more suspicious that the LAC is rolling into one program 3 different subject matter, which has to do with each professional's urgent needs for self-development and knowledge. In the course of this seminar, I have been made to understand that we shall be looking at advocacy as a major tool for business success, fintech for insurance services, as well as a talk on the effects of COVID-19 on mental health of families and business owners. Most noteworthy is the fact that this seminar is addressing fintech or financial technology that refers to software and other modern technologies used by businesses to provide automated and improved financial services. Obviously, the fast and innovation processes such as mobile payments change the way we manage our finances. Tech-savvy customers, especially millennials, expect money transfer, lending, loan management, and investing to be effortless, secure, and scalable, ideally without the assistance of a person or visits to the bank. The other papers focusing on fintech for insurance, penetration as a financial service, and health talk, effects of COVID-19 on mental health, on families and business owners. It is noteworthy that the topics couldn't have been more apt than now, when the whole world is faced with the effects of COVID-19 pandemic on businesses. All professionals and business owners should keep abreast of what will enhance the continuous survival of companies. And we shall surely draw from the rich reservoir of knowledge of our guest speaker for the enhancement of our knowledge in this regard. Our erudite paper reviewer, Barrister Rotimi Edu, MNI, will surely focus on the germane points in the presentations. It is most heartwarming that the Lagos Area Committee is one of the frontline area committees of our council in terms of value delivery. The LAC had continued to give the national body great support, for which I give kudos to its dynamic and ever-creative leadership and esteemed members. Please permit me once again to thank the leadership of the area committee under the able leadership of Mrs. Bukola Ifemade. You have continued to do our council proud, especially for your support to the national body. Well done, and keep the flag of our council flying. I wish you all a rewarding event. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much, President, for your speech. We appreciate that. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, before I take a little breather to stay at the background and watch, I've got a very, very able moderator here. So it's my duty to recognize her and for her to also present to us the paper presenter, and then she carries on from there. Enito Sholari is the moderator. She is a 1991 graduate of law from the Birmingham Polytechnic, United Kingdom. She kicked off her career working with Rims Merchant Bank in Lagos, Nigeria in 1992. Having developed earlier interest in insurance, and in order to gain the required skills and competencies needed to excel in that space, she returned to the UK in 1995 to work with Jardine Insurance Brokers Limited. Enito Sholari served in the claims department, thus began her professional journey into the insurance world. In 2005, she was appointed Pioneer Executive Director of YOA Insurance Brokers Limited. Her directorate at various times covered technical claims, human resources, and administration. Her last responsibility as Executive Director was as Executive Director of Finance and Administration. Enito is an associate of the Chartered Insurance Institute of London and Nigeria. She is also a member of the Nigerian Council of Registered Insurance Brokers and the Risk and Insurance Managers Society of Nigeria, RIMSI. Enito Sholari, I welcome you to properly present to us Mr. Peter Bride, who will take off from here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to the Ncrib Lagos media seminar. It's my pleasure to moderate this session. I thank Mrs. Ifemade for this opportunity. It's not to take up your time. I would like to take this opportunity now to introduce to you our guest speaker for today, Mr. Peter Bride, who is the CEO of the International Brokers Association of Canada, who is going to be presenting his paper to us today on advocacy and the experience of the Canadian industry. Thank you very much. Mr. Peter Bride, you're welcome. I yield the floor to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that very kind introduction. Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam President, delegates and members of the Lagos Area Committee and the Nigerian Council. It's an honor for me to have the opportunity to speak with you today from Toronto, Canada. It's about 10:20 in the morning here. I'm 5 hours behind you. And, you know, I wish that our circumstances could be different. And, you know, originally there was the opportunity that I would be able to see you in person. But unfortunately, the circumstances of this pandemic is keeping people apart. I've been in my role as the CEO of the Insurance Brokers Association of Canada for just over 3 years. And in a previous life, I was a member of Parliament in Canada's Parliament in Ottawa. I served as a member of Parliament for Kitchener-Waterloo from 2008 to 2015. And during that time as a member of Parliament, I had the privilege of being a member of the Canada-Africa Parliamentary Association. This was an association that encouraged dialogue and linkages and promoted parliamentary friendship between Canadian parliamentarians and parliamentarians on the African continent. I was fortunate enough to visit the continent on numerous occasions. Unfortunately, I have not yet had the opportunity to visit Nigeria. I hope to resolve that at some point in the future. The closest I came was the opportunity to visit both Senegal and Ghana, sort of close by. Would you like me to share my screen, or should we just proceed with this, with the presentation on the screen.
I think it's your presentation as well, so we can proceed with the presentation on screen, not unless you have something different.
No, it's the same. So I'll just, you know, as we need the slide to scroll, I will just indicate that. So it's, you know, my great pleasure today to have the opportunity to present to you some information about our association in Canada, the Insurance Brokers Association of Canada, IBAC, and as well with a particular focus on our federal advocacy efforts. Our association has a very strong record of success with respect to government relations and advancing our key issues with parliamentarians in Ottawa. So we'll go to the next slide. This is the overview of my presentation this afternoon. I will briefly describe our organization and our 4 program pillars, and then again we will focus most of our discussion today on the topic of federal government advocacy. Next slide. So a little bit about the Insurance Brokers Association of Canada. So we are, of course, a national association representing and promoting the collective interests of over 38,000 property and casualty insurance brokers across the land in Canada through our 11 member associations. We're a federated model. We have 11 members, 1 per province, plus 1 for our largest city in Canada, Toronto. And our mandate is to advocate for the interests of both insurance brokers and consumers to the Government of Canada. Next slide. Our mission. IBAC's mission is to promote the interests and the value of insurance brokers, and we do that both to government representatives and to consumers. We advocate very strongly for policies that ensure a vibrant and sustainable broker distribution channel in Canada. Brokers in Canada are responsible for about 64% of all premiums that are written in this country. It's much higher on the commercial insurance side, a little lower on the home and auto side, but ultimately brokers are responsible for facilitating about 64% of all premium. So a significant market share and a strong voice. And of course, a very important part of our mission, we uphold consumer protection and enhance consumer confidence in insurance. And as you'll see in a few moments as well, this consumer protection element is extremely important in our outward-facing messaging, both to consumers and to government. We have 4 pillars of our mandate that I'm responsible for operationally. First and foremost, federal advocacy, which we will be focusing on today. Secondly, we have a national marketing and advertising program. We use this advertising program to promote the value proposition of the broker. Of course, the tenets of the value proposition are choice, advice, and advocacy, and we emphasize those aspects of the broker value proposition through our national advertising program. We advertise nationally, both using television as well as digital media, and we go into the field every 2 years with a new television commercial. And our national advertising program really complements and supports our federal advocacy message, again with a focus on the interests of the consumer. Our third pillar is professional development. We are responsible nationally for developing professional development courses for brokers across the country. And our professional development courses are delivered through our 11 member associations. And then finally, we're very concerned about the issue of technology, wanting to advance both insurer and broker connectivity, ensure that brokers have the tools, the technological tools that they need to serve the evolving demands of consumers, and that we're helping to support and facilitate the effective flow of information and data between insurers and brokers so that we can better serve our clients. Next slide. So I mentioned this briefly already. We have a national advertising campaign. This is a little vignette from our television commercial. The creative platform that we've just concluded was called Before the Quote, and this was a very bold advertising program. And the purpose of the message here to viewers, to television viewers, is to highlight the broker value proposition of choice, advice, and advocacy, and to really convey the message that consumers of insurance are best served by an insurance broker. And if you don't use a broker when you're purchasing insurance, you could regret that decision, particularly at a time when you need to make a claim. And before the quote, you need to consider using the professional services and benefiting from the advice of an insurance broker. So that's the core message there. And we built a landing page as well to provide information and resources. Next slide. For 30 years, IBAC has had a very well recognized logo. We call it the BIPR for the Broker Identity Program. The original logo you'll see on the left was developed 30 years ago, before the internet. A couple of years ago, we updated and refreshed our logo. We wanted to modernize the logo. We wanted it to be more contemporary, again, to sort of underscore that the broker force is evolving as well, and that brokers are on the cutting edge. And this symbol, this icon, this logo is very well recognized, both by consumers across the country, which we have high brand recognition. But in particular, it's very well recognized by government and government officials as a symbol of trust and integrity, as the logo that represents insurance brokers across Canada. Next slide. So let's dive into the topic now of federal advocacy a little deeper. Again, as I mentioned earlier, IBAC has a very strong record of success with respect to federal advocacy over the last 30 years with governments of all stripes. We take a very nonpartisan approach as well. And that's particularly important because, as we know, governments change. And it's important to build relationships with not only members of the government, but members of opposition as well. And this process of relationship building is absolutely critical. It's the underpinning of success on federal advocacy, having relationships between local brokers in your communities with their local federal representatives. This is the magic that underpins success with respect to federal advocacy. It's all about relationships, and this is an ongoing and a continuous process. Particularly, of course, when new representatives are elected, it's important to establish that relationship early on. So the important message here is getting to know your local representative and portraying yourself as a local business person, someone who protects and serves the interests of your clients and consumers, someone who contributes to your community and to the local and the national economy. It's also important to develop, positions on key issues as well, and through dialogue with government representatives, ensure that you're securing their support for these particular issues and initiatives. So again, never underestimate the importance and the value of building relationships with elected officials. And this is really important because if an issue falls from the sky that may negatively impact the broker force, you want to lean on and leverage those relationships that you've built. Next slide. If you could advance one more. Now, the famous quote, "All politics is local," from the previous Speaker of the US House of Representatives, Tip O'Neill. If we could just go back one slide. Sorry, if we could go back to the "all politics is local." One more, I believe. Back one, yeah, there we go. Excellent. And a photograph of a previous member of Parliament there as well. Sorry, one slide ahead. Great. Again, the relationships are key here. Build your relationships with your local representatives. As brokers and broker associations, invite federal politicians to your events. As brokers, make sure you're attending political events as well. Make sure you're attending community events that local politicians may be hosting. Get to know them on a personal basis and offer to help. Offer to help in their mandate to serve their constituents and to represent the people of your communities. Next slide. Get involved in elections as well. This is really critical. This is really a key aspect of the political process, federal elections. So you want to take the opportunity through the political process to be involved in the campaign process. You want to associate yourselves with representatives that you're philosophically aligned with. You want to offer your support, and as representatives seek your support, make sure that they understand your key issues and that they're supporting your key issues. A very compelling message that one of the key reasons we are so successful in our capital in Ottawa is because brokers go to Ottawa with a strong consumer protection focus. This is critical. Everything we do at IBAC, every issue that we are involved in publicly is always done through the filter of what is best for the consumer, and we are seen as strong consumer advocates by our political representatives. And brokers as well go to Ottawa and present themselves as small business owners who give back to their communities. They present themselves as pillars of their community. To support our federal advocacy message and to really enrich our narrative that we tell to governments and to government representatives. A couple of years ago, we embarked on an economic contribution study to highlight both the economic and the social impacts of the broker channel in Canada. This is something that was never done before in Canada and was really, quite frankly, always a missing piece of the story that we tell to government. So in 2018, we hired Deloitte Canada to conduct a full study of the economic and social contributions of the broker channel. We received data at both the national and the provincial level. So each of our provincial associations have benefited from this information as well. And it's also supported not only national, but provincial advocacy efforts as well. So this was a major milestone, and the findings in the report really resonate with all levels of government and serve to strengthen our advocacy narrative, as I mentioned. And the report has confirmed and validated that insurance brokers add significant value to both the provincial and national economies, and they bring important social and philanthropic contributions to the communities where they live and work. The next slide. So the purpose of this economic contribution study conducted by Deloitte was to highlight the positive impacts that brokers make in their communities, And these are the national results that you're seeing now. So these are 2017 numbers. We released the report, conducted it in 2018, released the report in 2019. So the report underscored that the broker channel in Canada contributes $5.4 billion to our country's GDP. And for every dollar spent by member brokerages, almost $1.50 of total GDP is generated in the national economy. Brokers alone contribute almost $500 million in consumption and production taxes alone. And we sustain over 58,000 jobs in Canada. So that's the 38,000 brokers we represent, plus support staff, plus jobs that brokers help to create and sustain in their local communities. So really compelling numbers here. And equally, we focused on the social contributions of brokers as well. And through a very robust survey process in our study, determined that 90% of brokerages donate financially to local community organizations and charities, and 70% of brokerages support their employees volunteering for community organizations. So an equal focus on the social and the philanthropic contributions as well, which really resonates with government. Next slide. So every year, over 100 insurance brokers from across Canada visit Ottawa for our annual Hill Day, which happens every year in May. Now, unfortunately, this past May, we couldn't proceed with our Hill Day because of the pandemic, the first time in 30 years. So we have one day a year that we devote to lobbying both members of Parliament and senators on Parliament Hill. And we ensure that our brokers go, that they're well armed with the information and the asks that they have. And we match local brokers with their local representatives. Again, this is where the magic happens. This is where the rubber really hits the road. And political representatives are most interested in meeting with their local constituents, in understanding issues that affect their local business people. And that's why we take this approach. Our last Hill Day in May 2019, we had a very successful meeting with our Prime Minister as well. You know, and having the ability to meet with the leader of the country is always a significant advantage. So again, over 100 brokers descend on Parliament Hill in Ottawa to meet with their local representatives. Next slide. So here are the key messages that we take to Parliament Hill when we meet with our local representatives. We typically go with 3 messages. You know, anything more than 3 is just, you know, too broad, too overwhelming. And first and foremost, we always take the opportunity to educate parliamentarians and to reinforce their support on our key federal advocacy issue, our fundamental issue, which is on Canada's Bank Act and the separation of the pillars of banking and insurance in Canada. We're fortunate in Canada as the only industrialized country that actually separates the pillars of banking and insurance. There's a particular section of the Bank Act, Section 416, which prohibits, it prevents banks from selling insurance in their branches, and specifically at the point of granting credit. So this is our key federal advocacy position, and every year we go to Ottawa to ensure that our support on this issue remains solid, and it's particularly important as new members of Parliament are elected. Our second issue that we spoke to parliamentarians about our last Hill Day, as I'm sure is the case in Nigeria as well, we are seeing in Canada an increase in natural disasters, particularly flooding, overland flooding, In certain regions of our country, we're also prone to the risk of earthquakes as well. The government is looking for a whole of society approach to addressing the increased incidence of natural disasters. They're looking for the insurance industry to play an important role and for the protection of insurance to be part of the solution. So we went to Ottawa to tell them the important role that brokers play in helping to educate their clients on this issue and ensuring that they have the right insurance protection. And it really resonated given how topical this issue is. And then lastly, we also shared with them the results of our economic and social contribution study from Deloitte. And we'll do that every year. Again, really reinforcing the important contributions that brokers make economically and socially. And we will refresh the report with Deloitte every 5 years to ensure that our data is up to date. Next slide. If we could go to the next, advance one more. So this is a photograph or an image of the leave behind, as we described it. This is the brochure that brokers will take to their meetings with parliamentarians. They'll walk through this brochure. They'll discuss the three issues: the issues of the Bank Act, the issue of natural disasters, and the issue of our Deloitte report with parliamentarians. Outline our ask if there's one to convey, and then we'll leave this brochure, this information pamphlet, with parliamentarians. So every year we produce a new brochure like this, and it really helps to guide the conversation and ensure that brokers are staying on message and that our key messages are being highlighted and well conveyed. Next slide. So again, as I touched on earlier, this is our fundamental issue, the Bank Act, Section 416, and ensuring that the separation of the pillars of banking and insurance remain apart. This has been a public policy position of governments of all stripes in Canada over the last 30 years, and we want to ensure that that continues to be the case. And over time, there will be pressure on this public policy commitment to keep the pillars of banking and insurance separate. There may be consumer pressure, there may be pressures, there may be competitive pressures, or there may be pressures as a result of new technology, specifically fintech. So we want to ensure that, despite changes to technology or changes to society, that government support of Section 416 of the Bank Act remains extremely solid. And again, we take the opportunity to inform parliamentarians that at the end of the day, this is about ensuring that their constituents and that insurance consumers are protected. Because we believe that consumers are vulnerable to pressures when they're, for example, obtaining a mortgage from a bank or obtaining a car loan. We want to ensure that there aren't any opportunities for undue pressure at that sort of vulnerable time, and that there isn't any tide selling between, the provision of a mortgage, for example, and home insurance, the provision of a car loan and car insurance, and that consumers are better served by the professional advice and the support of a broker, and the broker will ensure that they have the right coverage, because if the consumer does not have the right insurance coverage, there could be very negative consequences, as we know. The Bank Act is reviewed in Canada every 5 years. The last review was in 2018, and we had a very successful review at that time. We're next expecting another review in 2023, so we will keep pressing this issue. Next slide. And again, the secret to government relations success is building relationships and ensuring that you've built relationships both in the political channel as well as the bureaucratic channel. This is absolutely critical. So in addition to establishing relationships with key ministers, in our case, the finance minister, the parliamentary secretary for finance, the committee chair for the finance committee, for relevant agencies, federal government agencies, in addition to building those political relationships, it's also extremely important and valuable that you're also building relationships with the bureaucrats, with civil servants, in our case, Finance Canada officials. And by having solid relationships with both the political and the bureaucratic channel, you will have a much higher degree of success in terms of your government relations approach. And keep in mind, and I can speak from personal experience, politicians come and go. The bureaucrats are there on an ongoing basis. They're the continuity, so you want to make sure that you're building relationships with that level as well. And again, locally, make sure you're attending political functions, locally and nationally. Make sure that you're inviting political representatives to your broker events as well. Next slide. Also find opportunities, beyond your key issues. Again, our key issue is the Bank Act, but we don't want to be seen in Ottawa as a one-trick pony. We don't want to be seen as only focused and obsessed with that one issue. We have, particularly over the last few years, we've really expanded the scope of our public policy involvement, and we found opportunities to contribute to various government consultation processes. Every year, of course, there's a federal budget, and we will make a submission to that process. Open banking is a key issue right now in Canada, and there's a consultation process going on. We have made our position known through that process as well. A couple of years back, the federal government proposed small business tax changes that would have had a negative impact on brokers as small business owners. We were very involved in that issue amongst many other small business representatives, and fortunately we were able to turn that issue around, and the government didn't proceed with the more punitive aspects of this. We've also had the opportunity to appear before parliamentary committees. I appeared at our finance committee in 2018 when the Bank Act was being revised, and fintech provisions were being considered, which now provide banks with the ability to own a fintech. And our position there was that we supported that move. We support the evolution of technology. We support, obviously, consumers being able to take advantage of new forms of technology, but not at the expense of our key issue of Section 416 of the Bank Act. That section could not be compromised through a bank's relationship with the fintech. I also appeared at the Justice Committee on issues relating to distracted driving and impaired driving specifically, when the government was considering new legislation relating to impaired driving, both alcohol and cannabis related. So again, find opportunities to contribute the broker voice to these federal government consultation processes, to these public policy issues. Next slide. And again, with respect to open banking specifically, we've contributed to a consultation process. On the issue of open banking, we recognize that it presents benefits to brokers who are small business owners, presents opportunities for brokers to take part in a more competitive financial services landscape. But at the same time, we want to make sure that consumers' interests are protected, that privacy in particular and the privacy of their data is protected, that their banking and insurance information remains separate so that financial institutions can't do through the back door what they're not allowed to do through the front door, and that's sell insurance at the point of granting credit. And as well, we want to make sure that any consent that the consumer provides to using a new fintech application, that consent is fully informed, and that it's very explicit as well. So ultimately, at the end of the day, we took a consumer-first approach on open banking, and we want to make sure that new technologies do not compromise consumer protection principles or affect the separation of the pillars of banking and insurance. And we're pleased that we've been very successful in this regard. Next slide, as I come close to the conclusion. Again, you know, IBAC is well known in Ottawa. We're a well-respected voice, not only on the Bank Act, but a range of insurance and financial services issues. And one of the reasons where a respected voice in government actually comes to us for our input and opinion is because we found opportunities to contribute to other important public policy issues like natural disasters, as I mentioned, with our Big If public awareness campaign. And we've also we've struck a partnership with the Canada Safety Council here in this country to raise awareness about the risks and the dangers of distracted driving as well. So we're broadening the scope of our public policy involvement. Next slide. If we could advance one more. So again, to help raise our profile as an important stakeholder in the insurance sector and to demonstrate how we serve the interests of consumers, we've developed a new public awareness program called the Big If, an awareness program that helps to raise awareness amongst Canadians of the risks of both overland flood and earthquake in certain parts of the country. The call to action here to consumers is that one of these events could happen to you, and you need to make sure that you have the proper insurance coverage to promote your financial protection, and that in order to ensure the proper coverage, you have to speak to a broker. So that's the call to action, and we believe because of the trust-based relationship that brokers have with their clients, that brokers are uniquely positioned to help raise awareness of these issues and to have these conversations with their clients. In addition, we've also, for the first time last year, and we've continued the sponsorship this year in 2020, have partnered with the Canada Safety Council to promote safe driving and to really address the issues and the dangers and the risks of distracted driving. Next slide. National Safe Driving Week here in Canada is every year, December 1st to the 7th. For the first time, we sponsored the week last year in 2019, and we had a robust sort of digital media campaign that had great participation from our member associations and brokers, frontline brokers across the country. And again, really highlights and promotes the role of the broker in helping to protect the interests of the clients and to raise awareness amongst consumers and their clients of these particular important issues. And that is the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you again for the opportunity to highlight how IBAC has really advanced the issue of federal advocacy in Canada. I hope that you'll find some of this information relevant and helpful to your deliberations, and I look forward to hearing any comments or questions that you may have at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Braid. I thank you for insightful and thought-provoking paper. I'm sure each and every one of us has learned something today that we're going to take away with us. Questions are going to come after Mr. Edu's paper. Before I introduce Mr. Edu, I just wanted to just do a quick recap. It's interesting to me that the IBAC membership is way bigger than that of the Nigerian insurance brokers here, and it's amazing the amount of impact that IBAC has had and is having in Canada. Of special interest is the work that you do on advocacy, And the fact that in advocating for insurance brokers, you're also tied in consumer protection, which I think is very, very important. And you've been able to do something that a lot of brokers here, for example, Nigeria, find difficult to do: get the trust of the general public. It's what you have been able to do by promoting the interest and value of brokers, advocating policies that ensure a vibrant and sustainable broker distribution channel, but mostly for the sustainability of the broker sector, and while working with government. It's interesting that the part of working your federal advocacy has been able to build a sustainable relationship, right, with lawmakers, both on the local and on the federal level, which has proved to be incredibly beneficial to IBAC. Also, I think one thing I also picked out of your paper that is compelling to me is the fact that you have a compelling message, right? And you've defined what your message is, and you've gone out both on the local and federal level, and you have not faltered in it, and which is consumer protection. We're not in there for us, we're in there for the consumers, which is quite interesting to me. I'm not going to take over Mr. Eju's portfolio here. So briefly, I'm just going to introduce him to everyone. He's going to do a review of your paper, of the paper that Mr. Bridge just presented. Mr. Rosimedu is a registered and chartered insurance broker and a product of Lagos State Polytechnic and University of Lagos, where he studied insurance and obtained his master's in law, respectively. He is also an alumnus of the prestigious National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru, Jos, Nigeria. He is a notary public and a chartered member of the Nigerian Institute of Chartered Arbitrators. He is currently the Executive Vice Chairman of QuickLink Insurance Brokers Limited. He's also the Deputy President, Nigerian Council of Registered Insurance Brokers, and the current Chairman, Brokers Forum of West Africa Insurance Companies Association, which is WICA. Welcome, Mr. Edu. Mr. Edu, can you hear us?
I hear you. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you now. Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank
you very much, Mrs. Shulari. And I say again, good afternoon to each and every one of us. And first on my recognition list is the president of our council, the person of Dr. Mrs. Bola Onigbogi, FCIB. I also want to recognize all council members present, the vice president, and the chairman. Like she's been recognized, the very active, very strong woman, a strong pillar of our council, and that is in person of the president of, the chairman of the Lagos Area Committee, Mrs. Ifemade. I also say good afternoon to all the resource persons, most especially Mr. Peter Bright, and then our distinguished ladies and gentlemen that are listening and participating with us. Yes, I must say this paper is very lucid, very incisive and astute, and it has given us an informed position about the Canadian market and the way the brokers there have advocated a lot of good things for the growth of the Canadian Insurance Brokers Association. Next slide, please. Without taking much of our time, next slide, please. Next slide, please. I have listened attentively to the presentation of Mr. Bright, and I can certainly try and put the summary of that paper into 6 good things. That is, what is the presentation about? Why is the topic important? What was done by IBAC Canada? The key results of what has happened, the implications on the practice in that country, and what was left unanswered, which is what I'm asked to really do. Next slide. If we look at it, we ask us, what is the presentation about? It's about the Canadian experience in advocacy and its effect on the brokers' growth in the Canadian insurance markets. Next, please. Why is this topic important? I must appreciate the fact that the chairman LAC was able to bring a topic like this, because at this point in time, insurance is in its next level in Nigeria. Yes, we've done a lot with the public, with the government, and that makes this topic very germane, because it becomes very important so that we can draw from the experiences of both nations and make comparative inference on the topic and the practice in both countries. We have been able to learn quite a lot from the system and the strategy of advocacy of the International Brokers Association of Canada. Next slide. The third thing that I observed is what was done. And I'm taking cue from his presentation that what they have done to get to this level is to ensure federal advocacy. They also have national marketing and advertising as the bane of their progress and success. And they are also interested very well in professional development. And I'm sure that includes a lot of training and retraining. And then fintech, which is also a wind that is blowing across all facets of practice, is another major one that is also prevalent now in Nigeria. Everybody is going to see how can we marry financials and technologies together. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. What are the key results of what they have done? What has happened? I was able to pull out 3 major things. The interest of brokers was promoted very well with their activities. Policies that ensured a vibrant and sustainable brokers distribution channel were also advocated by IBAC for her members. Consumer protections and confidence was also made key and helped for growth. We've heard how IBAC takes consumer protection very seriously. We are also doing that here in Nigeria. I'm sure we all know that through our various associations, the insurance brokers and the NIA, as the Nigerian Insurance Association, we've been able to deal with issues that may impugn on our integrity and growth in the insurance industry. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Hello, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. Now moving to this, what has what was left unanswered in this paper? And I can infer that there are 2 major important things that Mr. Bright did not talk to us about. The Nigerian Council of Registered Insurance Brokers had the opportunity of visiting Canada years back. I think we were in Ontario, and we actually had a very inciting and insightful relationship with that journey. And I can observe that the paper does not address the problem of insurance brokers in Canada. The paper tries to make everything look so rosy to us, but I know that the system of insurance there, maybe not in Ottawa, but where we were then, was like most of the insurances are placed on captive basis, such that in most times the brokers are not involved in some businesses at all. And I wonder how they've been able to manage this. Maybe it has changed or not. And part of it was actually the Banking Act, which was a real problem then. I must congratulate IBAC for having been able to surmount this and stop the sales of insurance in their various branches. Then the second one is how do brokers handle the long period of claims settlement? For example, in Ontario, it might take many months to recover compensation for all losses. And also most personal injuries take between 18 to 30 months in court before they are settled. These are problems that may confront brokers, which were not also itemized by Mr. Brad. And I'm sure that even though that is not all, those are the two germane things that I would have expected him to mention, because claims processing and claims payment is very, very key in whatever we do as brokers, because that is where the service actually lies. Next slide, please. Yes, let me quickly run through some of the Nigerian experience, because we need that to be able to juxtapose all that we have been saying. And I must, quickly say something about what advocacy is. This advocacy is the active support of an idea or cause expressed through strategies and methods that influence the opinions and decisions of people and organizations. And I can break this into three: advocacy with the government, advocacy with the people, and even advocacy within ourselves in-house. I won't go through all the definitions. Next slide, please. So as to save our time, let's look at our understanding advocacy. And in the real sense of it, when I first saw this topic, when Mrs. Ifemade discussed with me, I was wondering why advocacy. So there are some other germane things. Then it occurred to me when I was putting up this short response that this is really a key thing that can drive the growth and contribution of insurance brokers to the GDP of a nation and also to the insurance industry as a growth. Advocacy comes from a Latin word, advocare, and it means to call for support. Simple and straightforward. And I can understand it better being a solicitor and advocate of the Supreme Court of Definition of hello.
Yes, you're back. We can hear you now.
Yes. Okay. That from the academy, who is from the Academy for Educational Development, it describes advocacy as a tool for putting a problem on the agenda and providing a solution so that that problem and building support for acting on both the problem and the solution. It is a social change that we cannot avoid. It is very, very necessary as it creates relationships and also power relationship that strengthen a civil society and open up democratic spaces. Next slide, please. There are so many methods of advocacy which are listed. It could be by demonstration, peaceful demonstration. Sometimes it goes violent. It could be by petitions. press releases, newspaper articles, columns, media campaign, and lobbying. All this we have employed in Nigeria, and the strongest one that we are really pursuing now that we are under a democratic process is the lobbying. Next slide. Lobbying includes, writing personal letters, face-to-face meeting with decision makers, working with decision makers, drafting of joint strategies, and for instance, the strategic objectives of the Nigerian Council of Registered Brokers is to improve council lobby to government and advocacy on relevant issues concerning insurance. And we've been on this in the last couple of years, even though the first form of lobbying that we had was that one that brought about our 2003 Act that gave us the independence of standing alone and gave us the legal backing that we needed to be an association representing this unique body. Next slide, please. I'll quickly run through some case studies of what our advocacy results have been in the past. Dr. Mrs. Bola Onibugi, during her courtesy visit to the Lagos Chambers of Commerce, advocated that the laws on public procurement and health insurance should be reviewed by the National Assembly. She also advocated for insurance cover for the yearly trade fair organized by the Lagos Chambers of Commerce and Industry and the procurement of health and travel insurance for enhancement of the image of the chambers and protection of the delegates. And I'm sure that this year's trade fair, if not affected by COVID, will certainly see the insurance industry giving a cover to all participants of the fair, because that advocacy on its own was accepted by the Chambers of Commerce. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. There was also the advocacy by the former president, that's the immediate past president, Shola Tinubu, while addressing the cost 39 set of the Nigerian Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies in Kuru, wherein requested that the council should underscore the need for government to make agric insurance compulsory in the country. I think government has tried on this. They've made it compulsory, most especially where they are enjoying some facilities in form of loans from the central bank, and they've also given discounts to farmers that may want to insure their livestock or crops. Next slide, please. Past President Dr. Sanusi, if we all recall, led a campaign against the new capitalization of insurance brokers' capital base, wherein they wanted to increase it from 5 million to 100 million naira. And we all witnessed that the council was able to resolve to ensure that all avenues to resist this anti-brokers law was done. And up to today, we are still enjoying the fact that brokers don't need to carry heavy capital, but they should have a very good and adequate professional indemnity to take care of their negligence or shortcomings in their practice. Next slide, please. Same with former President Ayodapo Shoderu during the National Seminar for the Federal Regulatory and Intervention in Justice, organized by the Institute of Directors, where he called on behalf of all brokers for a reduction in the regulatory conditions in order to encourage business and professional growth across the sector in the country. This has been an impediment for a very long time because of stiff regulatory penalties and stiff regulatory strategies of government. But now it has been relaxed, and we thank God that brokers are now able to practice in a less regulated economy, and it's actually helping to grow the business. Next slide, please. Past President Dr. Fiishayo Soyewo MFR. Prince Soyewo is a man we all stand for when he comes in. For one thing that he did, that was a strong advocate for the emancipation and independence of the insurance brokers by his doggedness and commitment to the enactment of the Nigerian Council of the Registered Insurance Brokers Act in 2003, which has given us a very strong position in the scheme of things in this country now. In conclusion, what's the way forward for us? We need an immediate action plan of implementation on advocacy strategies for the council to be developed. And this can be seen in the way that the Canadian Insurance Brokers Association have been able to increase their GDP and their contribution to the GDP of the country, and also what they have done in ensuring that the relationship and their customer service is also developed to give room for growth in the brokers industry. We need this, and I'm sure that we are also working towards it. Please, can you, okay? Another thing that we need to do is the objective for an advocacy strategy and situational analysis in business to be marshaled. Most of the time, we have the problem that he has enumerated. We still have the problem of banks selling products, thereby sometimes reducing the business opportunities for brokers. We've taken cue from what you do, but we might, maybe behind the lecture, also need to have a full view of, or a full record of how you went about ensuring that the banks were chased out of your insurance vicinity. And that is not the only one. We also advocated for our licenses not to be annual. I don't know the experience of the Canadian brokers, but we do our renewals almost every year, but it's now been changed to 2 years through advocacy of some of our past presidents. And on this note, I'd like to say thank you very much for listening, and congratulate the Lagos Area Committee for this noble support and this very inciting and incisive topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eddie, for your presentation, most especially for sharing the Ncrib's experience in advocacy over the years. In addition to just to round up what you just said, sir, one of the other things that when talking about advocacy, that and in talking about advocacy in relation to Nigeria, is that locally, most of the advocacy is being done by Ncrib, I think most especially on the national level. But taking from the Canadian experience, I think the advocacy starts on a local level, right, whereby each brokers advocate within their communities. I think this is also something that we here in Nigeria can begin to do, right? Brokers, we belong to different communities within the state and then with different local government areas. And whatever happens in our local government areas affects each and every one of us. And so I think we need to begin to see advocacy not only as a responsibility of the national body, but as the responsibility of every single broker. And yes, taking from what Mr. Brett had said earlier, how do you, as an individual broker, advocate? right? I think what he said is on our local levels, right? Starting from our own local government, right? We have local government chairman, we have state representatives before we now progress to maybe the federal level, both House of Rep and Senate. And the thing is, we need to know who these people are, and we need to begin to speak to them about issues that concern our industry, right? And most especially because this issue is coming up now because we're talking about insurance penetration, right? Individuals buy insurance. These individuals are represented by first at the local government level and then at the state level. And so we need to begin to, as he said, get involved in campaigns. And I know that when we talk about getting involved in campaigns here in Nigeria, everybody thinks, I don't want to be involved because it's too dirty. But I think if we begin to at least start by knowing who these people are, right, getting to talk to them, we're not talking about picking a party or a side, as in for any election campaign, at least they have rallies and they have offices whereby as a group on the local level, we're able to speak to them. They know that we're there. They know that we're power block, right? And we begin to talk to them. And then these people will go from, as they normally do, from local government to state to federal. And then we've established relationships that will serve us later on the federal level. As well, the other thing which Mr. Bray spoke about, which I think we need to bring into the Nigerian context as well, which Mr. Eju did not touch on, is the issue of building a brand, right? We need to, NCRIB has to become a household brand, as in we have to be recognizable, right? On the local level and on the federal level, so that whenever anything has to be decided, right, especially in the finance space, because we're part of the financial services, right, and especially in relation to insurance, our voice, right, must be heard. So we must be respected. So I think one of the questions for later is going to be, how do we as NCRIB, right, build our brand, right? Also, the other issue as well as, right, which I think Mr. Eju mentioned, was for the NCRIB to determine a strategy on advocacy. As in, as part of determining that strategy, I think the issue of what our message is going to be, right, will be discussed at that level. But I think it's very, very important to decide what our message is. And it has to be something that is compelling, and it has to be something that the lawmakers who are politicians, and politicians want to serve their electorate. So it has to be something that is important to them as well. I think we as a group, we have to look at that as well. Also, how do we, he also talks about being involved with decision making. How involved are we with the decision makers? Are we invited to committee meetings? Do we have relationships with the various people at the state level and the federal level? Do they speak to us before policies are made, before decisions are concerned, insurance are made, right? So these are the kind of things that, that's why it's very, very, very important for us, right, as a group, right, to really work towards advocating for not only our sector within the financial services, but our customers, who are ultimately the arbiters, right? Who are the people who are actually going to promote us, and who's going to enable us to really achieve what we've been talking about in our market for the last couple of years, which is increased penetration for insurance, right? And the other thing that I think we also need to raise, which Mr. Braid raised as well, was that advertising or campaigns, right? As in, we need to begin to campaign as an industry, not campaign as individuals for the sale of products, but campaign as in respect of issues that affect, right, our sector on a national level, right? So, well, it's for me it's well, I know that Mrs. Femade did not ask for my 2 cents on this, but for me, this is an issue that I'm quite passionate about. Advocacy and promoting the brand of insurance brokers, right? The fact that people need to know that people need to know that you need a broker, right, to help you to achieve your risk management objectives, either as an individual or as a corporation, right? So to reiterate what I said earlier, so branding, 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 right? Once we're able to build a brand and we're a well-known brand, nothing will get done in this space without them coming to NCRIB first. So I'd like to thank Mr. Blade and Mr. Edu for their excellent papers. And it's at this point in time that the floor is open for questions. And so I think the producer, they're the ones managing the questions. Are there any questions, please? And the questions are they're going to be chat. The chat function is open. Can you please post your questions in the chat, and then I will ask the presenters to answer the question.
The questions are in the chat, ma'am. Would you want me to read them out?
Can you read it, because I can see it? Because I have my chat open, but I can see it.
Okay. All right. The first question is from Sakinat. She says, in the UK, South Africa, and some other places, there's a supervisory body for both banking and insurance called Prudential Authority. What is your view on this structure?
Is that a question for me?
Yes. Yes,
yes,
Mr. Braid,
it's for you,
go ahead.
Yes, yeah. And we have a similar organization here in Canada, a federal department called the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions, or OSFI. That department is responsible for the prudential strength of both banks and insurance companies. And they play a very important role, very important regulatory role. And in Canada, we take pride in the fact that our financial services regulations really helps to contribute toward very sound institutions. And in the economic downturn, for example, in 2008, 2009, we had no banks or insurance companies fail as a result of the OSFI prudential requirements. So a similar regime here, but the focus is only prudential. There isn't a consumer interface with OSFI or a consumer protection mandate specifically. That's with another organization called the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. So we also liaise with them.
Thank you very much.
Okay. There's still more questions for him.
Yes, please. But I want Mr. Edu to also answer this question in the context of Nigeria, please.
The Nigerian practice, I think we also have developed quite a lot of regulations, and this is being managed by both the National Insurance Commission and the Financial Reporting Council. These two bodies are responsible for regulating at various levels financial involvement in the insurance industry, and they have rolled out quite a lot of things. Right now, they are also dealing with the issue of how do we report our annual accounts, how do we report our financials, and recently we had a training on FRC 15 and 9, and I'm sure that this has been a value added because it helps most times to show the true financial position of the companies. And this reporting council is also going to still come out with some things, because the first time they came out, we had the problem of being small business owners, some of the regulations under the reporting council will really not be conducive to the level of operations that we have. So they have looked at that and they have now tried to reconfigure certain things that is expected from the Nigerian insurance brokers. And that was the last training we had. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Just to reiterate, as in Nigeria, it's only the NICOM that regulates insurance brokers. There's no fused regulator. There's a question for Mr. Edu, being the deputy chairman. This one's for you again. As in, but since IBAC has a system of liaising with government, especially the permanent holding, the question is that, does NCRIB have one, and do they do this, or do we do this?
Yes, NCRIB has a lobby committee that is headed by one of our past presidents, and also some of our past presidents are members of this committee. And we tend to follow up with whatever government is doing at any point in time that might affect the welfare and well-being of brokers. And in this light, when there is an issue or there's an upcoming regulation, like the new act that is in the offing, we have already started making contact and making assiduous relationship moves with the government to ensure that our heads are not shaved behind us, to ensure that there is no obnoxious clause or section in the new law that will impugn our success as insurance brokers, or that will, stop us from doing our businesses with too much stringent rules. So these are part of the lobbying things that we've been doing. It was also the lobby group that achieved the 2 years renewal of licenses. It was also through lobbying that we achieved the issue of making sure that brokers' involvement in some of the activities of government are also done. I'm sure that we are also lobbying to have us, like Mr. Braid said, in so many financial settings of the government. During the budgeting period, we are looking forward to being in some of their committees so that the things are gotten right from the beginning. It's also through the lobbying group of the NCRIB that the issue of raising the share capital of brokers was also stopped. So these are some of the experiences that we've had. We've always advocated through lobbying with the federal government, and even at the state level, we have been doing some good works there. Initially, most state governments don't buy insurance. They don't insure their assets and their human capital. But now it is almost a usual practice for state governments now to insure both their their human capital and their assets. And they do this through brokers, through lists of brokers that they employ. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. There's a question here for Mr. Braid. Says, do you have annual or other scheduled events at IBAC where members deliberate on issues of common interest?
Yes, we do. So the IBAC board meets 3 times a year, including our annual general meeting. And we take those opportunities, the opportunities for our board meetings, which are now being held virtually, of course, in this environment, to deliberate on common issues. And one of our board meetings every year is held in Ottawa. So we have a board meeting before our Hill Day as well in our nation's capital.
Thank you very much. There's another question for you, Mr. Braid. Says, do you have a representative in Parliament, and is the government represented on the board of IBAC?
We do not have a specific representative in Parliament, and nor is the government represented on the IBAC board. We really leverage the relationships between a local broker and their local federal representative, and advance our messaging advance our issues through those important relationships. And our Hill Day every year in Ottawa.
Thank you. Well, I have a question for you on the separation of banking and insurance and on the Banking Act, where banks cannot sell insurance. Right. In most countries, people believe that the best way of penetrating the population with insurance is through bank insurance. Now, since you don't have that in Canada, what kind of effect has that had on insurance penetration?
It's a good question. The penetration level in Canada is very high, and it's less about distribution and more about legislative requirements or regulatory requirement. So in Canada, you can't drive a car unless it's insured. Car insurance is mandatory. And in Canada, you can't take out a mortgage when you're buying a home unless you have home insurance. So it's those two regulatory aspects really that drive a high penetration level in Canada.
Thank you very much. I think Mr. Adu in his presentation had two questions for you. All right, the first one being about you're doing a wonderful job of advocating for insurance brokers in Canada, but there must be other problems that brokers face, right, that maybe the advocacy has not been able to help you resolve. Can you share some of those experiences?
Yeah, I think I'd like to use the word, challenge more than problem. One of the challenges that we're facing as a broker channel in Canada now is continuing to meet the evolving demands of consumers with respect to technology and a digital and technological interface. We have some brokers who are very advanced in terms of the technology tools that they use and their digital interactions with consumers. Other brokers, not as much. We have even a small percentage of brokers who still don't have a website. So moving brokers along the technology continuum is a challenge, and as well, ensuring that we're leveraging technology to facilitate the effective flow of information and data between brokers and insurance companies, and that's one of our key priorities right now. And we're using our success at advocacy in this case to advocate to insurance carriers to improve their ability and their investments in technology, and to improve our ability to exchange data between brokers and insurers, between the insurance, the back-end insurance database and the broker management system.
Thank you very much. Mr. Adu, that was your question. Were you happy with the response?
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy because I know that the issue of technology, if we can share from their own experience, then we will be able to see that we are not doing badly, even though NICOM is just setting up some regulations as regards how to manage technology with our financial services. And I'm very happy that if you are experiencing that kind of problem, even in a more technologically advanced environment, then I'm sure that in no time we'll be able to meet up technologically too. Thank you for that answer.
And of course, the current pandemic has underscored the importance of a digital interface with our clients and consumers as well.
Thank you. Then the next question then is IBAC now getting involved with members to help them develop their technological capacity?
We are through our member associations, through our provincial associations. So we have a national IBAC technology committee made up of representatives from our provincial associations across the country. Each of our provincial member associations has its own technology committee, and part of the mandate of both the national and the provincial technology committees is to educate brokers about the technology solutions that are available to them and help them make good choices in terms of those technology choices and technology investments.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions?
No new questions, ma'am.
Okay. You have any question? Can someone unmute the?
Oh, there's a new question.
Okay, I didn't see it. Just a minute.
It just came in now.
Okay, I think there's a question is. Just a minute, please. Okay, I'm just going to read it out. This gentleman would like to know what the relationship between brokers and underwriters in Canada was like. As in, bearing in mind that the banks are not allowed to write insurance, so they wanted to know what the relationship between brokers and underwriters.
Very good question. It's as you know, it's a key relationship. Brokers liaise regularly with insurance company underwriters. They advocate for their clients in terms of placing coverage or assembling a package of coverage for their clients. So those relationships are critical. I would say the relationship is generally very, very good and very strong. We are seeing some aspects of hard market conditions in Canada. You may be seeing the same in Nigeria, and in some cases, fortunately they're more isolated, but in some cases brokers do have a real challenge with the availability and the affordability of some specific coverage, particularly on the commercial insurance side, for condominium insurance, for example, condominium corporations, for commercial trucking in some cases. So in certain sectors where the risks are considered particularly high, the broker at times may have a challenge placing that coverage, and really needs to lean on the underwriter or a range of underwriters in order to place the coverage.
Which things? I don't know. In most countries, banks also own the insurance companies. And how does this affect? I know you said you have a very good relationship, but how does it not in any way affect your relationships with the underwriters, in that sometimes they're owning banks?
I'm sorry, I missed the last part of that question.
Oh, okay. As in, I don't know, in Canada, are the big underwriters insurance companies owned by banks? And if so, does the fact that banks are precluded from selling insurance, does it have an impact on the relationship with brokers?
Not really, no. I mean, in Canada, there are some situations where banks own insurance companies as well. In the vast majority of situations, that's what we call the direct channel, where consumers can buy insurance directly, and they're not dealing with the broker. Of course, we make the case that that consumers and clients are better served by the advice of a broker, and that's part of our national advertising message. So we try to win that competition war. And the fact that we have 64% market share in Canada, and that it really hasn't changed over the last number of years. Reinforces the strong position that the broker channel has in this country.
Thank you. The question from Mr. Edu here says, what is the plan of the body, in this case NCRIB, in increasing the numbers of representatives involved in advocacy? I think all MDs and CEOs should form part of the team.
Well,
again, Mr. Edu?
Thank you very much. I'm happy that Madam President is on seat. I'm sure she would like to say one or two things, but I know in the past couple of weeks, we have actually discussed the issue of advocacy and the representative levels, up to the extent that we have identified that even within advocacy, the lobby group eventually have a lot of subcommittees or ad hoc committees under the lobby group, some of them to advocate with the states, some with the government, some of them to advocate with the various industry sectors. And we have been able to analyze the fact that advocacy is not limited to government alone. Yes, it might be limited to government in the area of regulation, but it extends beyond that, even to our customers. We need to advocate. It's part of public awareness about insurance. And we are actually going to involve a lot of CEOs and some of the council members as members of subcommittee of various groups to advocate on certain things on our behalf.
Thank you, sir. Another question here for you, or Madam President.
I have a question. I have a question on this.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you. It's for the speaker. To what extent has deployment of technology or use of fintech affected the procurement and retention of business by your members? Peter, are you okay?
I don't think we didn't get that.
Yeah, okay, let me repeat myself. To what extent has deployment of technology or use of fintech affected the procurement and retention of business by your members?
The advent of fintech really has had no tangible impact so far, positive or negative, on the market share that brokers have in Canada. I think technology is obviously quickly evolving, and we will monitor this closely over time. It was just the last revision of the Bank Act that provides banks with the ability now to own a fintech. And we're still very much at the beginning of this new world, and we will continue to highlight and promote, again, the important role that the broker plays, and that consumers are better served when they procure their insurance through a broker.
Thank you, sir. Did you get that?
Yes.
Okay, sir. Yes, I think we have just a few more questions. There's a question here, which is, what is NCRIB doing to ensure NICOM provides the necessary guidelines that would enable brokers aggregate online and use more digital channels to sell?
Well, I guess that's for me.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Recently, we had a regulation proposal from NICOM, which affects also digitalization. And I'm sure that in that document, IT companies or companies that are planning to use digitalization have been asked to register with the National Insurance Commission. And I think they did this as part of consumers protection and also the protection of the industry itself. Because once you go on fintech, you find out that you need a lot of protection on your data. And not only the data, you also need to protect the data of your consumers. There are some sensitive information that may come on your system that doesn't have to be out there. And that's why the National Insurance Commission is also trying to put some eye of regulation into it. So for me, I think it's a good development. And some companies have started, most especially the big brokers, they've been on it before. But the intention of the council is to ensure that everybody has one form of, or let me say, a good system of technology in their various offices. And I must commend Lagos Area Committee again, because now they are trying to introduce a shared services called iBroker. And I'm sure iBroker would have spoken to quite a lot of brokers, and they also made some presentation to them about the various headings of what their IT system can do. So for me, National Insurance Commission has challenged us, and I'm sure that most of we even find it the new normal now, like we are having a business meeting on the web is part of what we are saying. And if this is developed, I'm sure that it will also boost the image, it will boost the production, and it will boost the efficiency of insurance practice.
Thank you very much, sir. And I think we have just one more question. I know you, for Mr. Braid, I know you partly answered this question, but someone has asked, what is the insurance penetration level in Canada and the broker's share of the market?
Yeah, broker's share is 64% of direct written premium in Canada. It's much higher on the commercial side than the personal side as well. Commercial side, it's about 82%, and that has remained quite steady over the last number of years. And the penetration level, I don't actually have those numbers, and they're very difficult to find in Canada. I do know they're very high because of the requirements. You can't have a car, you can't drive a car without car insurance, you can't take out a mortgage without home insurance. So as a result, penetration levels are fairly high.
Thank you very much. Madam Chairman, Mrs. Femadi, I think we don't have any more questions. So I'm going to...
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, moderator. Mr. Braid is here to talk to us about the claims experience in the Canadian market. That is, I asked that question as part of the things missing in his presentation.
Oh, yes.
Please, can you just talk to us about that in some few words?
Absolutely. You mentioned the situation in Ontario, in our largest province in Canada, and it just so happened that the situation in Ontario is the worst example in Canada in terms of the claims experience, the time it takes, particularly when there is legal action involved. The time it takes to deal with a bodily injury claim. Now that said, we at IBAC, we're responsible for federal advocacy, and our member associations are responsible for their respective provincial advocacy. And that division of responsibility is very important. So in the case of Ontario, our member association in Ontario, advocates to their provincial government about ways to improve the system of insurance in Ontario. Each respective provincial government sets the regulatory sort of framework for how insurance is delivered. In Ontario, there is no element of no-fault insurance, so the incidence of litigation is higher in Ontario. In 2017, the provincial government in Ontario arranged by an independent third party. It's called the Marshall Report. That report outlined a number of recommendations to improve the insurance system, particularly with respect to bodily injury claims in the province. And essentially that report recommended that the system be more concerned about delivering the appropriate health care for claimants who have bodily injury, as opposed to lawyers securing the highest financial settlement. So, you know, our broker association in Ontario has supported the recommendations in that report, and they are advocating to the provincial government to improve the insurance system in this province.
Thank you.
Mr. Edu, did you get that?
Yes, I did, and I think that was a very good answer to the question. Why I asked is that I'm aware that is happening, and what are they doing as IBAC? We also have similar things here in the area of settlement of claims. Sometimes there are delayed claims, and when it goes to court, we have a long span of legal tangles too to solve it. So we'll learn from your experience that NCRIB too can make advocacy to the Ministry of Justice on insurance matters, so that some of these matters will be dispensed with little time instead of days.
Mm-hmm. And of course, I will just quickly add, finally as well, you know, for the vast majority of claims that don't require or involve court action, where they just sort of move through the system of the insurance carrier, the broker plays a very important role advocating for their client, navigating that claims process. And this is a part of the broker value proposition that we frequently highlight.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your wonderful presentations and taking the time to answer the various questions. I'm going to Mrs. Ifemade would now like to say something. Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Sholari. Great job. I just want to say that it's very interesting. I also want to thank our president and our deputy president, and of course, Mr. Bray, who honored our invitation. It's actually very interesting because when I met Mr. Bray and we got engaged talking about IBAC, what actually got us to now, request that we be our guest was how amazing it was that out of the 100% of the programs, about 60-something% was devoted to advocacy. And that actually got me involved. I was like, everybody just focusing on advocacy, and I was like, how potent could advocacy be? And I really, really appreciate our deputy president who has also tried to review that. And I believe that from what we've seen from his speech, which will be shared, of course, to everybody, so we can always have a review and all that. And I also believe my president now, because Mr. Bray said something, it was actually meant to be your special guest, but COVID locked him up in Canada. So I believe that on your invitation, he'll be very much glad to be our guest, of course, to be your guest, here in Nigeria, where we can now be physically. Do I say that right, Mr. Bray? Good. So we will be getting that invite from my president in sometime soon. Thank you very much. So on that note, I would like to hand over to the MC to take us to the next line. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ifemade. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a very rewarding and highly stimulating engagement, for which due appreciation goes to the resource persons, particularly Mr. Peter Bright and Barrister Rotimi MNI. Can I now invite the Executive Secretary of the NCRIB, Mr. Fatah Adegbero, for his brief closing remarks. Mr. Adegbero, please.
Thank you. Yeah, we really had a very nice time. Let me start by first appreciating our dear president, the chief host herself, Dr. Mrs. Gola. Thank you for staying tuned. since the beginning of the program. The guest speaker, Mr. Peter Prey from Canada. We appreciate you as well. The paper reviewer, our old deputy president, Barrister Rotimi MNI. The VP and all board members present. The host, who has been highly commended by all that have spoken, Mrs. Bukola Informatic, and Deputy Chairman of that. The moderator, Mrs. Eni Toshonari, we appreciate you. Our colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I have no doubt in my mind that we all have had a very better and good time, and we have gained a lot. We are better than as we came in this afternoon. We've acquired, we've added to our knowledge, and the only thing that is good is knowledge, and the only evil is ignorance. However, challenging the common saying that knowledge is power, I wish to postulate that knowledge is only power when it is applied or used in advancing a cause. Hence, I'm appealing to all participants to put what we have learned into action for better results. I cannot thank the guest speaker, Mr. Brain, enough for sharing his thoughts, experience, and what obtains in Canada with us. You are highly appreciated for that beautiful presentation. I have to extend that appreciation to our Deputy President also for very beautiful review and comments. If the participants and my colleagues will agree with me, I believe sincerely that we need to step up our game in this area of advocacy. Our presence and relevance need to be felt at the various governmental levels for acceptance and penetration. Our attitude over the years on advocacy could be likened to a damsel blinking in the dark. Has it ever occurred to us why the government always listen to and assist the banking industry, the manufacturing industry, the aviation industry, and other industries whenever they run into challenges, while similar support is not given to the insurance industry? We need to be visible at both the National Assembly and the Presidency. I'm very well aware of the steps being taken by the present leadership of the Council. We have Government Liaison Committee, we have Elders Advisory Lobby Group. The Council also has feasibility projects being used to sensitize the public, insurance public, about the need to engage brokers and the need to have insurances. And we also have a publicity and publication committee as well. But still, the entire industry needs to form a formidable team to address this shortfall in our operations and track. On web aggregator guidelines that was a subject of question, I want to convey this information that our council recently has submitted our input for consideration by NICOM. That has been done under the leadership of our able president. Let me close by also appreciating all the participants and all those who put this program together to make it a success. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much. Our time is fast spent, but I have to quickly take this before I take the final note. I will go back to Mrs. Sholarin again to please present virtually the wordings of our appreciation as emblazoned on the plaque to our resource persons. Were it not for the social distancing, probably we will be presenting it physically today. But this has to be done virtually. Mr. Sholarin, please could you read out the appreciation?
Okay, Mr. MC. Right. The Nigerian Council of Registered Insurance Brokers, Lagos Area Committee, presents this award to Mr. Peter Braid, the CEO, Insurance Brokers Association of Canada, in recognition of his invaluable contribution as guest speaker at the NCRIB Lagos 2020 Media Workshop, focused on advocacy, fintech, and mental health, today, which is Wednesday, 22nd of July, 2020. On behalf of the Lagos NCRIB Lagos chapter, we present this award to you, Mr. Tibre. Thank you very much for taking the time out today. Thank you.
Thank you, and sincere thanks for the invitation today.
MC, the next award. Thank you.
Yes, Barrister Rotimi Edu, please. Barrister Rotimi Edu.
Yes. On behalf of the Nigerian Council of Registered Insurance Brokers, Lagos Area Committee, I present this application award to Barrister Rotimi Edu, the Deputy President, Nigerian Council of Registered Insurance Brokers, in recognition of your invaluable contribution as paper reviewer at the NCRIB Lagos 2020 Media Workshop, focused on advocacy, fintech, and mental health. Today, the 22nd of July, 2020. Thank you very much, sir, and congratulations. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are almost one, but last item. This announcement has to be made that tomorrow is another day, and we're going to have the day 2 of the seminar, of the media seminar. We'll be featuring fintech and mental health tomorrow. So please, it's going to be a very, very stimulating engagement also. Right away, I would like to invite the Vice Chairman of the LEC, Mr. Rotimi Olukorede, for an expression, a brief expression of thanks. Mr. Rotimi Olukorede, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I want to appreciate everyone that has participated in this first day. Especially, I want to start with the President of the Council of the NCRIB, Dr. Mrs. Bola Onigogi. Thank you so much, ma'am. We appreciate your presence in this conference, and we thank you for being with us throughout the workshop today. Thank you so much. You have added color to this workshop, and I'm sure you are also expecting to shake Mr. Peter Braid very soon when he comes to this gathering. Thank you so much for being here. I also want to thank our Deputy President, Barrister Rotimi Edu. Thank you for reviewing the paper. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for giving us insight. In fact, your paper and your review has actually given me some confidence that you are actually too bad in Nigeria, that are actually also practicing advocacy, just like Canada is doing. Thank you so much for that paper. You have given us a lot of confidence, and we know that the council is doing a lot to improve on a lot of brokers in Nigeria. I want to thank Mrs. Enitan Sholari. Thank you so much for moderating this paper. Also, especially, let me also extend my appreciation to Mr. Peter Braid on behalf of the Lagos Area Committee. We wanted you to be here some months back, but we thank God that this is the opportunity you have to share your thoughts with us. Thank you so much for being in this conference, this workshop. Thank you for delivering this paper. We have really gained a lot from it. I must confess that you are giving us quite a lot of insights into what can still be done in the Nigerian market. And so we want to appreciate you for that. And most especially, just like my chairman said, we expect that one day you will, very soon, really, you will be here with us physically when all this lockdown is over. So thank you so much. We appreciate you. For everyone, especially our ES, Executive Secretary, Mr. Deberu, thank you so much for your message today. It has been quite helpful. Thank you. We also want to thank Mr. Tokwe for being with us. We appreciate every member of the council who is on right now, who is on this platform right now. We appreciate every member of the LAC and other members from the area committees outside Lagos who are also on the platform. Thank you so much. All members of the NCRIB, we appreciate you all. And we also appreciate our sponsors, especially the company that has provided this platform for us to be on today. Rugby, thank you so much. We appreciate you, and it's been really exciting. And we are sure that this conference, this workshop, is really secured. One thing you have assured us is that the platform you are giving to us is very secured, and we have found that it's really very secure. Thank you so much for that. So on behalf of the chairman, my erudite chairman, Mrs. Bukola Efemadi, I want to thank everyone that is here today. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful time. Tomorrow is another day. By 11 a.m. tomorrow, we expect you to join us again. And I assure you, just like Tokwe said, I assure you that it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful time and a good experience for you again. Thank you so much. We're going to close with by sharing the grace. Okay, shall we share the grace in fellowship? The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the sweet fellowship of the Holy Spirit rest and abide with us now and forevermore. Amen. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Brent, bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
President, bye. Mrs. Shulani, bye-bye.
Bye, Mr. President. Bye-bye, Madam President.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Thank you.
Thank you. My chairman. Thank you so much. This is a wonderful, wonderful conference.
Oh, thank you, Jesus.